Alright, Joseph broke the mower yesterday.
Alright, yep, it was my fault. My bad, it's fault.
He woke up in the morning and it broke, so... Actually, Timothy broke it. So, for all of the guys out there that complain that I never show the broken parts on the John Deere mower, this is a first. You know why it's a first? Because I have never broken the John Deere mower before. Alright, so John Deere has this horrible love affair with these stupid couplers. And I say stupid couplers because they're stupid. These are the same style coupler that goes inside the transmissions on the older 6600, 6620, 7700 John Deere combines, only on steroids. These are a lot bigger. So what happened, as you can see here, it stripped out this end. I don't know if you can see it. Can you see it? One end is stripped, one end is not. This is the new one. Usually inside, you see a snap ring in there, and usually inside the snap ring goes bad, causing the said coupler to move across and ruin the transmission of some sort, somehow. So, not in this case though. In this case, it was just dry as a fart, and it was just dry, and it allowed it to strip out. So we're going to put a molly grease inside of it. You know, molly grease. Not holly grease, but molly grease.
Holy grease.
Hmm?
The holy grease.
The holy grease. Alright, so this is going to suck big time.
Why?
Well, which side stripped out? The side towards the impeller?
Yeah.
Okay. So that would be this side. So I've got that thing in there, but it's not where it belongs, so I'm going to go ahead and slide it onto the shaft. Grab that camera.
You want this? How many tubes is it? Yeah, there's room for this one, but I know I filled it up yesterday.
You could hold it in your hand, no?
That's just fucking great.
Huh?
I just pulled that thing in here and I noticed that fucking tire's flat.
Well, you pulled the nail out. When
It
you're in
was
the, listen to me. When you're in the field and there's a nail in a tire, you leave it in there until you get home, because when you pull it out, guess what happens? The air's allowed to come out then. Get me some tire eject and put in there. Yep. Yeah. Not talking to
what I
you.
was going to finish saying.
Don't need to.
I only picked out that nail because it was only...
What?
It was only hanging on the outside. It wasn't like in the tire.
It was in there because tire's flat.
It wasn't
Okay, so
in.
that's how that goes. That's how that goes, and I'm torturing poor Tim, my poor child. Anyway, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put, I got some special grease. I got all kinds of special stuff nowadays.
Special grease.
Not that special grease, I got different special grease. Okay, so I have, and they're not paying me to do this or anything, but I have this Schaefer's Ultra Supreme. It's Joe's favorite name. It's Ultra Supreme.
It's ridiculous.
Huh?
What does it say about the product? Nothing. It just says that it's...
That's true. It says absolutely nothing about the product, but this is a moly grease. Synthetic blend, extreme pressure grease. And it's waterproof. That really annoys Joe, because it's waterproof.
It's oil.
Well, oil's waterproof!
It's oil.
You're like, yeah, you're right, Joe. So anyways, this is supposed to be for low, slow-turning bearings and other things of that sort, like kingpins and front axles, fifth wheels, and anything that turns slow and has a lot of pressure on it. I have another type of this grease over there, which is for the high speed, high temperature stuff. And that's also, what is that called?
This has got an actual name. It's Moly EP Synthetic Plus Grease.
I got Moly EP Synthetic Plus Grease. That is for this. Now this stuff is surprisingly not really that expensive. I bought.
Oh, it's good.
I got $1,000 worth of grease. Not quite $1,000 worth of grease, about $800 worth of grease that came. Oh yeah, and it says on it, "Do not use your bare hands." Ooh, it is. Ew.
It's stringy.
It is stringy. Oh God. This is how you make a freaking mess.
Your fault.
I'm retarded. You know that?
It does say do not use.
It says right on it, don't use with bare hands. Well, I don't have any bare hands. I've got Leslie's hands, but no bare hands.
Oh boy, look at this.
Oh God.
Poop it out. Ah.
Yes, it'll do that. So I'm putting this in here. It was explained to me. Oh, for God's sakes.
Starting fluid.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's really good. That'll excel it into the bloodstream really fast. Give me some starting fluid. Anyway, this Molly grease is supposed to bind and adhere to all the divots and pivots and scrapes and scratches inside.
I think.
Oh, my hands feel greasy. Are you full?
It's pushing out the.
Huh?
It's pushing this out.
Is it full?
Yeah, I think so.
Too full?
Yeah, maybe.
Don't suck it out. Put it in and put the cap over top of it.
It won't go in. It pushes it out. It's pressurized now.
Oh, all right. Well, okay, now that I've made a complete mess of this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on the shaft, or I'm going to have Joe or Tim or whoever put it on the shaft on the coupler side, and then we're going to put this thing back together. So it goes on this side first on the who's what's it here. There's a cone with a shaft in it. What do we got here, Joe? Wow. Yeah. That's really kind of interesting. I think John Deere put this thing together dry, to be honest with you. There's a pilot bearing in there. Hey, did you know there's a pilot bearing in there?
I don't know what a pilot bearing is.
Well, it's a pilot.
Yeah.
So, there's a pilot hole, or a pilot shaft on there. See that shaft on there?
Yeah.
That's a pilot shaft. So this thing here goes on. Okay? And you take that, hold on here, and on the inside, so you know what I'm talking about, there should be a hollow spot on the inside here. Okay, so there is. So that shaft actually goes inside of here. And what I want to do is actually force the grease through the splines. And on that pilot, I'm hoping that it'll go around it. One way or the other it will. So, we'll see what happens. Yeah, we'll see what happens. Let's get it on. Okay, so we're looking at, I'm not looking at it. I'm actually replacing the knife. What do they call these things for a drone? Knife lever CPL, meaning complete. Alright, so I'm going to show you the old one. These have got about 32,000 bales through them, which means that they have tied somewhere around 64,000 knots. Alright, 64,000 times this thing has gone across the bill hook. 64,000 times, isn't that crazy? Under tension, by the way. So, alright, so a lot of times what happens with these, and this one here is no exception, is the knife gets dull. Alright, so I took and I ran this knife over a hone and cleaned it up as best I could, you know, try to get an edge on it, and it did help. I should have just bought new knives, but I said, screw it, I don't need a new knife. I'll just sharpen the ones I've got. Well, unfortunately, and every time I touch it, it makes it worse, but unfortunately, that didn't help it complete it, or didn't complete the, or make the solution. And you can't see, but maybe you can see, right where that steel piece meets the knife, there's a fair amount of wear there, and there's a chip out of the knife itself, right here. Well, the reality is, that makes it dull. When you have a dull knife, it doesn't cut it so well, which can cause you some problems. The next problem that I have is right here. This is where it sweeps. This is the surface that sweeps the knot from the bill hook. Okay, so what has happened is, and I'm going to show you a brand new one, but you can see, maybe you can't see, I don't know, you see those that divot in there? That has now become a pinch point for twine, and it's just not nice and clean and sharp anymore. So I'm going to grab a new one out of the box here. They just throw them in there willy-nilly. But grab a nice new one out of the box, and you can see how that is ground nice and sharp and square. There's no divot, there's no rounded over piece. And I'm going to give you the same view on the used one. You can see how much wider that trough is, or that U where my finger is. It's a lot wider there, which is causing the knife to move side to side a little bit, and it's not sweeping the knot completely off the way it should. And I'll show you on this one too. This one's worse than that one, but you can see if it'll focus. Come on. Come on, there it is. You can see that it's kind of rounded towards the back side here where that big divot is. That's causing me problems. It's just causing me problems. So these knife arms are $180. I believe they're $189 a piece. I can't remember. I don't have the bill in front of me, but I think they're $189 a piece. Not only that is the ball on the end, this bushing here that rolls. This follows the cam on the inside of the knife, or the knotter gear, and it wears just a little bit, and it's probably worn a 64th or something off, which turns into a 32nd on both sides, and that's not allowing it to actually pull the twine away from the bill hook, completing the knot. And that's what I'm having problems with. They're hanging on the bill hook, and that's not good. So my daughter just showed up. She's dressed for cold weather. What do you got, the Del Val hat on? Yeah, okay, well, I'm glad she showed up. I'm gonna go ahead and talk to her for a minute and put this together. Okay, so we've had go unplug that heater. We don't need that thing running. Shut her down. Huh?
I'm so glad it keeps us warm. It's loud, obnoxious.
It's like you? Loud and obnoxious? You're not loud and obnoxious. Anyway, just completed this job up here. The boys have completed that job there. Might as well start it up and see what happens. Look for leaks. Try it. Yeah, if it's all back together. So anyway, all new knife arms. All the final verdict on this is that these things are just shot. They're hogged off to the side. There's a dent where it doesn't belong. Knives are dull, worn in different places, which in turn causes them not to cut and tie right. You hear any weird noises? Huh? Doesn't sound weird. We just put a new charge pump in. Oh, wait a minute. It's pulling up on it. Sounds better? Yeah. What the fuck? Get that thing and put it away. I just ran into it. Quieter, isn't it? You know, I often wondered if they made hats to fit like this, because I see people wearing them like this now. I guess the Gold Rush Rick Ness has made it like this. This is extremely uncomfortable. I don't know how you could even get used to this, because the hat is designed to fit your head. And most people have either a very round head, which then it wouldn't matter, but we have ears. You know, so when you turn this thing like this, the bill hits your ears. I mean, you see that? Very uncomfortable. And you look stupid. So, anyway, I'm going to brighten that up there. Yeah. I cut this video off in a couple of weird places. It was like so much stuff was going on, so I figured it was well worth my time to go ahead and do this little commentary at the end. As far as the coupler that was broken in the John Deere mower, that was not for the transmission. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that are thinking, wow, that transmission went down. How did Tim drive it up there? Well, no, it was actually from the cutter bar. There's a hydrostatic drive motor at the top, which goes into a gearbox. And I'm sure there's a coupler in there too. I ought to pull that off and see. I'm actually going to look on my in my parts catalog to see. It's a 994 header. 995 has rollers, either steel or rubber, but this is the impeller. So the coupler actually drives the impeller, the conditioning impeller, or the conditioning flails. So that's where that coupler failed. Not a big deal. Took about 10 minutes to tear it apart and 10 minutes to put it back together again. Very easy. And that's the one thing that I really love about John Deere equipment, at least these pieces of equipment. Like in the drive side, where the engine and everything. Oh, look at this sexy girl. She's coming out. Ooh.
Are you live?
No. The drive side of it is wide open. I mean, that machine is really big. This is W235/260. The same machine, just a different computer program to the engine. That's the only difference in those machines. There's nothing different other than a computer program. So, with that being said, it was really simple. I put that moly grease in there because the moly grease is designed to actually adhere to the steel and fill in the little gaps of I say little gaps. There's a pilot hole and a pilot shaft that kind of plugs into one another to keep that shaft solid. It was dry. There was never any grease in that thing. They put that fucker together dry. So with the moly grease in there, that'll fill in some of the imperfections in the splines and lubricate that shaft, and there she goes. So she's getting ready for church. It's raining outside, but anyway. So that was that. Now that machine is back in the field. It kind of screwed me up for one day. I mean, really one day. And tomorrow's video, if it uploads the way it's supposed to, I used the Rilo camera. Yeah, this thing. This little guy here, and I got some really cool views from the top of the tractor cab while we were making winter hay, and I thought that it was definitely worth noting. So now we go back to the baler. The knotters on that baler, after 64,000+ knots, that thing goes so fast that there's a lot of wear there. And with me going to bale straw in the summer, or in the spring or in summer, it's in the summer. With me going to bale straw in the summertime, it's really going to be very, very important that this thing ties knots correctly, quickly, and efficiently without me having to get out and fix it. So I replaced all the knife arms, or the knife levers, according to Krone's name for that particular arm. Knife arm, knife stripper, knife lever, whatever you want to call that thing. It was put in there. Now, I am going to actually, after I ran 88 bales through it yesterday, and I'm actually going to pull the knotters up and readjust that knife arm. I think they're just a little bit too tight against the bill hook, which will cause excessive wear. I don't want excessive wear. I want it to just touch and swipe it off. If you have excessive friction on the bill hook, it's not going to wear the bill hook out. It's not going to wear, it'll wear on the knife arm or knife lever, but what it's going to do is wear that ball at the other end where it follows the cam. It's going to wear that down extremely fast. So I'm going to go ahead and readjust those so they just touch it. Just a whisper of a touch. Maybe I don't have to adjust them anymore, but I'm going to do that today. So anyways, I've got 4 minutes in talking to you guys on this thing. It did work flawlessly, with the exception of my own kind of stupidity. Not stupidity, but when you mess with a knotter, you have this automatic. I have an automatic greaser on these machines, and when you mess with the knotters, you get to see the internal working parts of it and see if things are working correctly, anything getting starved for oil or grease. And yes, that thing did upload. Cool. Oil and grease. I'm working on my iPad too. I mean, there's a lot of editing that goes into these videos. You may not believe it, but it does take time. So the farthest one away from the grease entry point, that knife arm, which was causing me troubles, was kind of dry. It had grease on it, but it was dry at the top of the shaft. So what I did was I forced a bunch of grease. There's a grease zerk at the top, which will run grease through the entire system. I ran 2 tubes of grease through there. The least amount of grease that is dispersed into the system goes to those knotters. Because if you put too much grease on the knotters, what happens? The grease gets on the twine, and then it slips the knot. So yesterday I was experiencing knot slippage because of the 2 tubes of grease that I put through the machine. Everything else is well lubed. When I started pumping it in, I could feel that there was some hard grease in some of the tubes because it was really hard to pump it through. So I ran John Deere cornhead grease through it, two tubes of John Deere cornhead grease through that system. And by the time I was done, grease was coming out. It was working perfectly. So I got that solved. Anyway, see you next time, tomorrow, possibly. Today is Sunday, so Monday. And yeah, thanks for watching. Please comment, rate, and subscribe for more. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It is free. It doesn't cost anything. It is free. So thanks again.